Predict, pick, and prevail in your fantasy football leagues with Nick Giacobbe and Nick Cap. From breakouts to busts, superstars to sleepers, these are the guys that will help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome everybody to Season 4, Episode 1 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, with the hopes that we help you prevail throughout the 2024 fantasy football season. I'm your host, Nick Giacobbe. Joining me, as always, is Nick Cap. Nick, we're into Season 4, fourth year of the podcast. We always rewrap and re-rack our season normally around June or July. It's mock draft season. It's football season. This episode's going to air on Monday. We have the Stanley Cup Final, Game 7. Basketball's already over. We're kind of on our way to football season. We're right around the corner at this point.
Yeah, we're a little bit more than into 100 days away from the first kickoff, the first week of the season. Excitement builds. I feel like once the NBA Finals is over, I know there's some people that love baseball, but for the most part, it's like time to prep for football season. You enjoy your summer and you get right into football. So it's our jobs now to make sure that you are best prepared for this year's draft. And as Nick said, what better way to kick it off than with a mock draft?
And this is the time to start preparing. Late June, early July. Your regular drafts will probably take place in late August. But you want to start to get to know the board. There's going to be a lot of changes. Me and Nick will talk about some sleepers and some guys that we think are undervalued today. And then when we do a mock draft 8.0 in the last week of August, we're going to say the guy we really liked in round 10 is now going in round 6. And that's kind of how it usually goes. But this is when you can start analyzing the draft board and see what guys you like, what guys you don't like, and figure out the value that you do have for each player. So we will get into that. That is our show today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show, but we will do a mock draft and we will break down, each round and how we do that. Before we get into that, if this is the first time listening or watching us, thank you so much. The Primetime Fantasy Podcast during the off season, it is still the off season is now going to give you just about one show a week. At this point, it'll be mock drafts. It'll be any news that does pop up over the next month or two. Hopefully, no injuries. We're going to break down some sleepers, breakouts, busts, etc. We'll do that as the weeks go on, as well as we ramp up our draft process. So like I said, you'll find us once a week during the offseason at this point. And then come football season, you'll definitely get a show during the week, probably 2, depending on our schedules. And then our live show will be Sunday mornings. We haven't figured out a time for that, but it's usually early Sunday mornings. You can find the show on all audio streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Anchor. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It takes you 30 seconds. We'd really appreciate it. If you'd rather watch and listen to the show, go to our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit a like if you're watching this video or any video in the future, and then smash that little bell icon so you get notifications every time we drop a video or we go live. Follow us and interact with us on all social media platforms. Twitter/X, it is Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Primetime FF Pod, Facebook, and YouTube is Primetime Fantasy Podcast. So we are doing mock draft 1.0. I'll be honest here. Nick has mocked more than I have. I've done a couple, but that's okay because I kind of like going in a tiny bit blind so you can see the mistakes that I'm going to make and throughout the process. But I've done a couple in the last week as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up Sleeper, which is our preferred fantasy football platform. So here is the draft board. As you can see, nobody's on it right now, and that's okay. So this mock is going to be kind of molded after the league that me and Nick have been in for the past. I think we're going into season 9. So it's a 12-man league. It's full PPR. There's a couple bonuses for touchdowns and yard bonuses, etc. So you do bonuses in this league. You start quarterback, two running backs, 2 receivers, 2 flexes, tight end, kicker, defense, and then there's 7 bench spots. So we're looking at, I believe, it's a 17-round mock. And that's what we'll be doing today. So in our actual draft, I had picked 6. I started off really hot last year. I think it was 8-0, and then I think I lost 7 of my last 8 or something. I collapsed, and that sucks big time. Nick had a very successful season. I think he won our points title, but he did not capture the championship. So he finished second place. So he has picked 11, and it is a snake style, obviously. The other thing here, we did not prep this because we don't know who's being kept, but this is a keeper league. You could keep one player after round 6 drafted each year. So there are players that will not be on the board, but we don't know who's being kept yet, so we didn't take them off the board. So you'll actually get a better grasp as you're watching as our draft process, since most of you guys will be doing normal drafts and won't really have that key rule that we have. So Nick, I believe you created this mock, so how about you hit start and we can get going.
Great, let's get right into it.
Here, McCaffrey's going number 1 and very, very wide receiver heavy. This is really tough. And I know it's a first round pick, but it's still really tough because here's what I really love here. CeeDee Lamb was awesome last year. I think he finished as the wide receiver 1 or 2. It's a mock with auto sleeper, but still, I'm surprised he didn't go in the top 5. I'm actually going to go with a running back here, and it's a tough decision to make here. Two good offenses. We have the Jets offense. We have Bijan Robinson, the Falcons, really good offenses here. I'm going to select Breece Hall. Really high. I think we have only 2 guys on the planet that can go for 2,000 yards rushing and receiving. I think the Jets are really going to have to lean on him. I think they'll be a run-first team. I don't think 41-year-old Rodgers coming off that, is it ACL injury or Achilles? I think it's an ACL, is going to want to throw a ton. And Breece Hall was awesome the back half of the year last year. So I'm very confident in that pick, even though Nick knows I am a receiver guy.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, if I were in your spot, I would definitely lean on Lamb. But I do like Breece. I think Breece, Bijan, Gibbs are the tier 2 of running backs. McCaffrey's in a tier of his own, obviously. And for me, if you're going with the hero running back or you want to go strong on the RB, those are the guys to grab. So unfortunately, none of those guys slipped down to me. Off the top of the board, I'm looking at receiver now. It's either Puka, Garrett Wilson, or Marvin Harrison. I would like to lean on Puka Nacua this year. I do know that might be a little bit stronger and bolder for an early round selection. I know that there might be some fear with him, but to me, rookie receiver put up numbers like that, PPR machine. I'm very confident he takes a big step forward in year 2 and puts up similar, if not a better season. And as a rookie, put up a top 5 season that would right now perform his ADP. So I'm expecting him to hit on a lot of cylinders. And Nick, before I make my next selection, I'm going to ask you to do the audience a couple favors. Just hit mute on the mic button up there because I know they're going to get spams while we're talking as well. And we'll go with the top of the running backs is Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. From my recent mocks, if you cannot get Breece Hall, Robinson, Gibbs, McCaffrey, I'm a bigger fan of waiting on running back for later rounds, unless if you're at the tail end of the second round. And in that case, me being confident in Puka having a ton of yards and catches in full PPR, just like this one, I'm going to take a shot on Marvin Harrison Jr. here and make the stack of the 2 wide receivers.
All right. So first tight end goes off the board. It looks like pick. I'm not good with math. You're good with math. So here's the board that I'm looking at right now. Saquon Barkley, Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, Devon Achane. I really don't like the board that I'm looking at. I really would have liked to grab a stud receiver, but I really don't love the board. But I do love Chris Olave. He is on my dynasty team. He's been on my team in this league for 2 seasons now. I'm going to rip it back. I'm going to go get a stud receiver that I know is a wide receiver 1 that I know will get a ton of targets as always. And he will be my wide receiver 1 as I also lean on Breece Hall. Michael Pittman did just go, and that sucks. I was eyeing Pittman for my next pick, so I do love loading up on my wide receivers. So I'm going to take a quick look at the tight ends. Nobody really like Kelsey went. I'm gonna stick with the receivers. I'm going to go with one of Nick's guys, Mr. Old Reliable here, Mike Evans. Nick got him as a steal last year. He's going to keep him, so I actually won't get Mike Evans in this league. But wide receiver 1 on his team. Baker feeds him. It was 8 straight seasons with 1,000 yards. I see no reason that he's going to slow down. I see no reason to fade Mike Evans, especially with the guys that he's around. Nico Collins and Diggs, I don't know who's going to be the number 1 on that team. Tank Dell's over there as well. They should have good seasons, yes, but I want a qualified number 1. Debo, not a qualified number 1. The other receivers here, looking at Malik Neighbors, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith. I wanted my number 1, so that's why I decided to go with Mike Evans.
Totally respect that. I was actually going to prompt you with the question of which Houston receiver do you take? Because I found myself in the same spot. When I see Diggs and Nico Collins, I'm like, they could both easily finish in the top 10 this year. The problem is which one's going to do it. And I see researching Tank Dell. I mean, he's
I'd
going.
rather Tank Dell at pick 50 than these two guys
Yeah.
at pick 30.
No,
At that point, I want the value because I just it's a pick your poison. And my honest answer is I want CJ Stroud instead of the receivers.
Sure. And to that point, I'm in my spot. I don't have any running backs yet. I'm looking at the running backs on the board. Still don't love any of them. Keep in mind, as me and Nick have said, this is a 2 receiver, 2 flex league, full PPR. So I am looking to grab one of my flex receivers because I do not love any of the running backs here at the top of the board.
Rashad White was awesome last year, though.
Yeah, for sure. But
that's the one that jumps out to me.
Their offensive coordinator left this season, so I'm a little bit more hesitant on him. And I'm also looking at the 1Z positions. I'm looking at QB. I'm looking at tight end. I do think that there's one guy here that I have at the tail end of a tier, which makes me want to take him over the next group, which is Jalen Waddle. I would rather take a third wide receiver, someone that I know he struggled a little bit last year with Tyreek Hill, but that is still a fully loaded offense. Tua was either led or was top 3 in yards last year. Dolphins offense was very explosive. I don't expect them to take a huge step back. And, now I just hope that he could be strong during the playoffs when it's cold weather. I'll cross my fingers on that one. But in all seriousness, I'm very confident in Waddle. And I'm going to go with something that might be a little frowned upon, but it's what led me to championship success last year, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take another receiver, and I'm going to take the first guy of my next tier, another wide receiver, a dominant player for his team. I'm going to go with DK Metcalf. I think he's one guy that's going way too far down the board. I don't see how you could take 2 receivers for the Texans over DK. I think he belongs in the middle of the 3rd round. His explosiveness, his down the field presence, and their new coach, I expect to be more young, more offensive. Even though he's a defensive coach, I expect him to be more of that explosive type of play. He seems like a very smart coach. And if DK is not working there were rumors last year that he get one out. So if they want to trade him mid-deadline and we can watch him go to another contender, that's not going to be any problem for me and my team.
So slew of running backs just went. Rashad White, Joe Mixon, really like both of those guys. Really, really love Mixon this year on that Houston offense. Didn't get him, unfortunately, but I'm going to take another Texan. I'm going to go with my quarterback a little bit early here. I think we did bump our quarterback touchdowns up to 6 points last year, so quarterbacks have a little bit more value. He has rushing upside. Very, very explosive offense. So happy to get CJ Stroud. Now, looking at my pick now, I was hoping to get Kenneth Walker on the wrap. To get my second running back. Did not work out. Do not like any of these running backs on the board. So looking back at it, I probably would have taken Kenneth Walker here and I would have swapped for a Dak or a Joe Burrow. But we got to play with what we have. And what we have here is I have 2 receivers, I have a running back, and I have CJ Stroud. The tight ends are also starting to go here. McBride, Kincaid, Andrews. But I think I'm going to fall into the Kyle Pitts trap because he has Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to fall into the trap. I'm going to take a really, really talented tight end, and I think it's his 3rd year, 4th year. My other pick that I could have gone with here is Zay Flowers. Again, a wide receiver 1 really late in this draft. But I think here I'm comfortable snagging Kyle Pitts, knowing that these tight ends are going to go, and knowing that there might be a chain here where tight ends do go on the back half of this draft.
I think that's the smart pick, and I do think Pitts be falling into the trap for a couple of years, but Kirk Cousins just put up so many top players.
He's a stat sheet stuffer. Like if you can't get it done with Kirk, like you can't get it done with anybody. And exactly. Not for nothing, it's not like Kyle Pitts has had bad stats. I mean, you're looking at right now, 2021, he had 1,000 yards and one touchdown. 2022, I think he got hurt. He only 28 receptions for 350 and 2 touchdowns. Last year, 53 receptions for 667, 3 touchdowns. I see no reason why he can't get back to that 1,000 number, and then the touchdowns need to get buffed up to probably 6 to 8, hopefully.
And if you take a look, Nick and I have not similar, but definitely strategies where we both fade the running back until later in the draft. Nick going with hero, I'm going with zero. I think is a good point for last year and a good reference point. Wide receivers dominated fantasy football. If you take a look at the start of the mock, I mean, the first round, there's 4 running backs and 8 receivers that go off the board. Like, that's the split. I mean, it is just so heavy, and that's causing a lot of running backs with good value to be later down the board. So for me, even though I don't love Aaron Jones and David Montgomery as running backs, they are not in a typical year a sixth round, in 12 person, a fifth and then a sixth round running back, and that's not the stack I'm going for. But I am definitely going to take one running back next round. But I do like one tight end that's still on the board. Not George Kittle. The next one down, Evan Engram. Last year was a monster with Jacksonville. Had big weeks, like individual weeks where he was winning you your fantasy matchup. And for me, if you're taking a tight end position, he's the last one on the board that I see. Maybe Njoku as well, and Hawkinson when he gets back. I know he's going to start the year on the IR most likely. Those are like the 3 later guys that can go get you 20 points in an individual game. And we're yet to see what could happen with Bowers. Obviously, any tight end can fluke into two touchdown week, but Evan Engram was doing it in the air and with yardage. He had multiple 100-yard games last year, which is not common for a tight end. So I'm very happy with that. And Nick and I had a very famous mantra last year, and I'm going to follow it, and that is follow the money. And Ramondre Stevenson, a little bit more of a vet now, but still a young running back with Drake May, rookie quarterback, and rely on his running back, probably the best offensive weapon there. They just gave him the bag. And for me and Nick, we said follow the money with David Montgomery last year, even though it was on the move. When you pay your guys, you plan to use them. They did not give Ramondre all that money not to have him take 200 carries this year, and a 200 carry running back this late in the draft is a steal. So I'm happy to lock him in.
I think that's a good pick as well. We're seeing some wide receiver ones going off the board. And there goes Aaron Jones. That was actually the pick that I wanted next. Again, following the money here. There are some other running backs available, but I don't like them at the moment. So I know, look who else is on my board. I don't really like the receivers either, if I'm being honest with you. But I am going to take a shot at Jalen Reed. He seemed to be the favorite target of Jordan Love. I think that the Packers are going to have a lot of hype this year, coming off the playoffs and stuff. So I'm going to take a shot at him. So we're in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was round 6. So we are now in keeper territory for me and Nick's league. I'm looking at the board here. I do need a running back. I do need a receiver. So I'm going to go down and see kind of what I like. We're at pick. Where are we right now? 7. So I'm going to take a little shot here. Maybe. Well, no, we're not going to take a shot. Not yet. Not yet. I'm looking at the board, and there's players that I like, and there's players that I don't like. And it's like I'm in a weird space. There's nobody that I love, but there's other people that I, kind of do like it. But I don't like Najee. I just think that there's competition there, but he's fine where he is. DeAndre Swift, the offense is on the loaded side. I could consider that one Raheem Mostert a backup. I'm actually going to. Go down the board just a tiny bit. I'm going to take a shot at Zamir White, starter for the Raiders. They did not sign another running back. They let Josh Jacobs walk. That shows a little bit of confidence there in Zamir White. So I'm taking a little risk there and taking a shot at him being my running back too.
I like that pick. He's someone that I do like in drafts, but and as I said earlier, I mean, I went 0 running back. I'm stacking the running backs at this point. And I'm still looking for a quarterback. To me, Najee Harris and Raheem Mostert are 2 guys that I really like at their value. Najee, for the last, I feel like 2 seasons, everybody's throwing a lot of shade at him for where he's finished as a running back. But that's because he's been going in the first and second rounds. And now they're bringing in Arthur Smith, who had about 2,000 total rushing yards between Algier, Bijan Robinson, and Cordarrelle Patterson last year. So even if there is that running back controversy or the two running backs getting split carries, I fully expect that they're going to ground and pound the entire season with the two of them. And I'm not saying that he's worth a second round pick, clearly. But if I'm at the back end of the 7th round and I have an opportunity to take yet again another running back I think could be due for 200 yards or 200 touches, I'm absolutely going to smash that pick. So I'm going to take the shot on Najee, and I am hoping, which did happen, Raheem Mostert falls to me. I did take him last year, so I do have a little bit of appreciation for a guy that finished as a top 5 running back. But my logic is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I know Devon Achane is going to have so much hype, but he had 2 injuries last year, which sidelined him for a long period of time. And Raheem Mostert didn't finish as a top 5 running back by accident. He finished as that because it's the top scheme. It's the Kyle Shanahan scheme. And if you have the Kyle Shanahan scheme and you are a good to great running back, even a bad running back, you're going to have a good season. So in the 8th round, coming off the bench, Raheem must start. I'm going to definitely take him and be comfortable with that in the 8th round.
All right, let's look at my board here. I really want to take Nick Chubb. I really do. But we're in a keeper league. And I really, really like the talent of Brian Thomas. I think he could emerge as the number 1 in Jacksonville at some point in the next year or two. It's a keeper league. I'm kind of sort of playing for next year, kind of sort of knowing that he's probably going to end up being a guy that I won't get to use as much this year, but that's okay. Keeper league, I'm okay with it. So I only have 2 running backs. I really looking again when we review our draft. We could talk about stuff that worked, stuff that didn't work. I really probably should have grabbed another running back at some point, but I don't like the running back talent right now. So I'm not going to go grab a running back. I'm going to look at some other receivers who are available. Seahawks drafted JSN. He has to be he is really, really talented. And he's going to have to get more touches or receptions, especially with, Tyler Lockett eventually going to take a back seat. I'm okay with taking who I think will be the wide receiver 2, who has some chemistry with Geno Smith. They don't have like a rookie coming in. It's not, it's a quarterback we could trust. So I'm okay with taking JSN as my wide receiver 5 at this point, knowing he will be on my bench and knowing that he'll be a good flex guy I could flip in and out if needed.
I think that's the right pick there for you, for sure. In taking a look at my team, clearly I need quarterback, and I'm not one that wants to just fill out the roster. But to me, I do think that Jared Goff and Tua are excellent quarterbacks. Little later down the board, Jane Daniels, Justin Herbert. I feel like quarterback is very deep this year. Tua and Goff, both easy plug and play depending on the matchup, guys. No doubt that either one's a good start. And because I already have Jalen Waddle, I'd rather take the stack of Tua over Goff, even though I do think Goff and him probably finish around the
But that's a lot of Miami. I don't want to cut you off. That's 3 players on that Miami offense. You're banking a lot there. I guess you could bench Mostert most weeks, but
yeah, Mostert wouldn't be a starter unless he's out. But even then, I mean, the Dolphins had a top 2 or 3 offense in terms of scoring last season. So I know that there might be some trepidation there, but I'm happy to take another Dolphins player. I think that offense is too good for some of these guys to be going this late. Looking now, I'm looking at depth. The one player, and if I did not grab Engram earlier, if I didn't like Engram over the rest of the class, I probably would take Hawkinson, start him on the IR, and then take a later tight end. But I do like the capital that I put into Engram, so I'm not going to take Hawkinson here, although I do think it is the right pick for a lot of teams. And to Nick's point, I don't want to over Dolphin. And for those tougher matchups, like I said, it's a plug and play based on matchup. And I'm totally fine going back-to-back quarterbacks and taking another guy I like in Jared Goff. Even though they're not the elite quarterbacks, neither of them are top 8. They might be 9 through 14. But they are on absolutely loaded offenses, and they benefit from it. It's the same thing as Brock Purdy, who went right before them. When the offense is loaded and the coach is very smart, maybe not Goff's coach as much, but the offense is loaded. The offensive coordinator for the Lions is extremely bright. They're going to put up fantasy points. They're going to put up points in the NFL. They're going to get touchdowns. And for Nick and I, in a league where a passing touchdown is 6 points, it's very important to have a quarterback that's going to put up the volume of touchdowns. So I'm very comfortable picking every week which one of these quarterbacks I would want to be my starter.
I'm going to follow the money here, and I'm going to take the Gus bus. The Chargers offense doesn't have the pieces that it used to have. I know they signed both Gus Edwards, and they also signed J.K. Dobbins, who's had a couple really nasty injuries. But yeah, I want to take a shot at him. Only going to be my running back 3, going to ride my bench for first couple weeks, then we'll see where things kind of shake out. But I'm okay with that, knowing that the Chargers are a team that will probably run more, I think, now with Jim Harbaugh. But Herbert obviously can light it up as well. So looking at the board now, again, nobody that I really like here. There's just not a ton. So I'm gonna take a shot here. Again, we're looking at, down the board. I'm gonna take a rookie wide receiver, Xavier Leggett. I think it's how Leggett. I think that's how I pronounce his name. But I like rookies. You never know what's going to happen with them, especially late in the draft. I'll take a shot at the rookie and see if Bryce Young can get him going. And if not, that's okay. It's my 11th round pick. I'm not super duper worried about that.
So the guy I really wanted just went off the board in Jerome Ford. He's going to start the season as the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns. And he had a very solid, consistent season last year. We don't know when Nick Chubb is going to be not only returned, but be 100%. And even at 80%, Jerome Ford is just as good of a running back. And to grab him this late in the draft is kind of a no-brainer to me. So I've definitely locked up quarterback. I'm not looking at that position for the rest of the draft. When you're this late in the draft at bench guys, you are looking only for one thing, and that is upside. Taking a look at running back, there is one guy that I think that could ascend as a rookie for the last, I want to say it's 10 or 15 seasons at running back. 2 rookies have finished in the top 24 every single one of those years. And I believe one has finished in the top 10 for the last somewhere between 7 and 10 years. I should have perfected the stat before I read it. But I'm going to take a shot on Marshawn Lloyd, rookie running back for the Green Bay
Good pick
Packers.
in the draft. I like that pick a lot.
So we know that they let Aaron Jones walk. They obviously have A.J. Dillon, who they weren't ecstatic with. But the Green Bay Packers on that back half of the season were one of the elite offenses in the NFL. And if Jordan Love could keep up what he did last year, there is no doubt in my mind that a running back on that team is going to succeed. And when we're taking shots this late in the draft, there's nothing more that I'm going to like than a rookie running back on a highly explosive offense, where by week 4, he has the opportunity to take over the starting reins. So I'm very happy to take him this.
It's a great pick.
A little reach on the board. And then I am, and this is kind of a homer, one of my guys that's been my guy since his rookie year. I'm going to take Josh Palmer. I think he has the upside to be the wide receiver 1 in my eyes, with a top 5 quarterback in the league, with one of the 10 best coaches in football. So again, you're chasing upside here. I don't know if Palmer is going to be a smash play necessarily, but I do think that he presents a ton of upside.
I'm going to take my second quarterback. I love a good stat sheet stuffer. I'm going to take Kirk. Oh, actually, let's see. He's biased 12. Let me see when Stroud's is, just to make sure.
7.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to take Kirk Cousins as my backup. I'm fine with that. And then I'm not sure these other teams are going to take defensive kickers. I don't think so. I'm going to take a defense and a kicker because this is when I would take them. And I'm just going to stream my defenses. At this point, I'm assuming most of the top defenses are gone. So I'm a streamer. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints defense, who plays the Carolina Panthers week 1.
Don't hate that at all. I'm a little confused because our draft is set up so that it's 17. For some reason, it's only showing us 14 rounds. We'll see how that works. But again, Nick and I are looking kicker and defense here. I'm going to take Justin Tucker. All reliable as it presents itself as the last on the board. And then let's take a look at week 1, because Nick, of course, took the smart play, which is whatever defense versus the Carolina Panthers this season. And I'm going to roll with I'm going to go a little further down. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks against the Denver Broncos. I don't think Bo Nix week
Ugh.
1 is going to be that great. So we'll take our shot there.
And for kickers here, I want a kicker that's going to score a lot of points. I want a kicker that's on an offense that will score a lot of points as well. Younghoe Koo has an awesome leg, and that offense should produce a lot of points.
All right, there we go. It added the rest of our round, so we're good to go.
So that's very weird and annoying. Okay, so just to be clear, me and Nick would not be taking our defense and our kickers in rounds 14 to 15. You guys saw it live. Like, all right, it was not showing our last 3 picks. That's okay. Mock Draft 1.0, it's okay. All right. Let's see what I like here. Jolene Polk, that's a rookie. I love my rookies. Just not loving a lot at the board. And what are you going to love at the board at this point? So I always like taking a shot at rookies. Let's put another rookie on the team. I think I have 3 rookies at this point.
Awesome. So again, I still am low or thin at running back with to me 3 starting running backs, but not a lot of upside because I do think I took a lot of floor guys. Obviously outside of Marshawn Lloyd. So taking a look at running back, who we think has big upside, and there's generally not a lot on the board. If I did have to take someone chasing the upside at running back, I'm going to go with someone I took last year, and I still believe it. So I'm not, and I'll get persecuted if I'm wrong. I still don't think Travis Etienne is an elite running back in this league. And I do think that Jacksonville over the last 5, 6, 7 years has been the team to be 1 year too early letting go of a running back than 1 year too late. So I'm going to go with Tank Bigsby and just hope that he can manage to take over that starting role eventually. And again, we're throwing darts here in the 15th round. So I'm sure I'll get persecuted for the pick anyway, but it is what it is. And then if I'm going to chase some more upside, I'm going to look away from running back. I'm going to go to wide receiver. I'm going to go to Malachi Corley, rookie receiver for the Jets. He was taken in the, I want to say, early 3rd round. And reports from training camp have been fantastic about him. And obviously with Mike Evans being the 2 there with the injury concern, if I'm the wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the season, if he gets hurt early, I'm totally happy having that player at this late in the draft.
I'm going to take Elijah Mitchell, the handcuff to McCaffrey. You don't have McCaffrey, but if McCaffrey does go down, I know he's 28 or 29, had a couple nasty injuries in his career. I have the starting running back for the 49ers. Mm-hmm. And my last pick, I'm going to take Bucky Irving, the backup running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is somebody a lot of scouts really liked coming out of the NFL draft. So again, my last pick, I'm okay with taking a backup running back that might be able to play a role in an offense that will score a chunk of points.
I'm going to go with Jermaine Burton, rookie wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He should slide into that Tyler Boyd role. And God forbid anything with T. Higgins. They have issues early on. He still wants out. It could be possible that he takes over the reins and as the wide receiver 2 for Joe Burrow. All speculative, but that's what you have to do. You have to make up a reason to want to take a guy like that and chase the upside that late in the draft.
All right. So that is our mock draft 1.0. Nick, I want you to kind of, you can talk about your roster and let us know what you think.
So I'm very happy. Again, I have no problem going 0 running back if the board doesn't fall the way you want it to fall. I would love in my real drafts for at the 11th pick for Jahmyr Gibbs to still be there or Bijan Robinson. Unfortunately, I do not think that that's going to happen in most leagues. I do think the gap from Gibbs to Puka and Garrett, I think there's just so much more value taking.
I think you can get Gibbs in our league. I don't think you won't get Brees or Robinson.
No, definitely not. And with the keeper format, the only Puka will be the first guy in the first round. He'll be the only guy in the first round that was drafted that's kept. So I did take a guy that probably is not going to be on the board, in which case I would have went for
He may not be kept.
Joe
has Kyron.
Got it. Okay, so there is some upside there. Okay, well, we'll see. But with those options, so I have no problem going 0 running back. I do think I have my first two guys are safe floor. I think they're both easily going to get a ton of targets, ton of yards, and upside for touchdowns. I have no problem again going 4 receivers off the board to start. So in this format of a league, if I had one change, I might have traded my Evan Engram pick to go take Ramondre around earlier and then Aaron Jones. I probably would have rather had that stack than having Najee Harris and Ramondre with Engram, and then taking another tight end off the board later like Ferguson or Njoku. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have any disdain or dislike for my roster. I feel pretty good going into the season with this team. It does suck being this late in the draft, not having one of those tier 1 receivers. But even more like it, I'm happy with the value I got at running back later in the draft. So good with me.
I lost the league and this draft in rounds 4 and 5, and that is what I would change. Now, the reason why I took Stroud is because our league does tend to take quarterbacks a bit early, so I'm anticipating that guys like Burrow and Dak and maybe even Love are probably go a round or 2 earlier. But if you're looking at this mock alone, I probably should not have taken Stroud, and I could have gone Kenneth Walker and flipped that. Pitts, I'm a little bit more okay with, but again, he's another one I could have waited on a tight end in there. I maybe could have gone Zay Flowers or an Aaron Jones. So those are my 2 mistakes, but I like my first 3. I think they're really strong. I like my run from Jalen Reed to Gus Edwards, and it's a lot of upside and talent there. So aside from that, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with what I did. So that is our mock draft 1.0. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully we gave you some knowledge, and you'll get to grow with us and watch us as we mock with you guys every week and give you guys our nuggets and give you our sleepers, our breakouts, and talk about the draft board as the weeks go on. You can see how our minds progress and change, because that does happen with camp news, preseason injuries. So there will be a lot, like the mock we just did will be much different than when we draft on August 30th or whatever. So if you enjoyed this episode and you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to put a like on this video. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notifications every time we go live. Make sure to follow us on all social media channels, PrimeTime FF Pod, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and then Facebook, YouTube, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. If you're listening on an audio streaming platform, if you're on iTunes or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a review, and any other platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get new episodes every single week. Thank you guys for watching or listening. Thank you for supporting us. We are in mock draft season. We are coming up to football season. Keep rocking with us, and we'll talk to you guys next week.